The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and disappointment. I sat there, watching my brother Derek's smug face as he signed the papers for our grandmother's Victorian mansion, the crown jewel of her estate. 23 rooms, 7 acres, worth more than I'd make in 10 lifetimes. And me? I got a rolled-up tube of yellowing papers, blueprints. That's what 24 years of being the family disappointment gets you. Architectural drawings while your golden child brother gets everything else. "Don't look so glum, Sophie," Derek said, not even bothering to hide his grin. "Gran always said you liked art. Now you have some vintage drawings to frame." His wife Melissa laughed, that tinkling fake laugh she'd perfected at country club brunches. The lawyer looked uncomfortable, shuffling papers while avoiding eye contact with me. I picked up the tube, feeling its weight, heavier than I expected. Something rattled inside, metallic and small, but I said nothing. Just nodded, signed where I needed to sign, and left with my consolation prize while Derek popped champagne in the parking lot. If you're watching this, maybe you know what it feels like to be the one everyone expects to fail, the one who gets the scraps while others feast. But sometimes the smallest inheritance can hold the biggest secrets, and sometimes the person everyone underestimates is exactly who should have been trusted all along. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I need you to hear this story. Like and subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you changed everything I thought I knew about worth, about family, and about the price of keeping secrets. My name is Sophie Chen, and I'm the Chen family failure. At least that's what they've called me since I dropped out of medical school. Derek became the surgeon, following in our father's footsteps. Our younger sister Victoria became a corporate lawyer. And me? I became a kindergarten teacher. In my family, that was equivalent to becoming homeless. "Sophie works with children," my mother would say at parties, the way someone might say, "Sophie has a drinking problem." The disappointment dripped from every word. We're not sure where we went wrong with that one. Growing up, I was actually the smart one. Straight A's, perfect SAT scores, early admission to Johns Hopkins. But something happened in my second year of med school. I was doing my pediatric rotation, working with sick kids, and I realized something that changed my life. I didn't want to see children only when they were broken. I wanted to help them before they needed fixing. I wanted to teach them, inspire them, show them they could be anything. My family saw it as giving up, throwing away my potential. "You could have been someone," my father said the day I told him I was switching to education. "Now you'll always be nobody. Special." Derek loved that. My older brother had always been competitive, but my fall from grace meant he never had to compete again. He became the only success story, the only one worth bragging about at family dinners. He married Melissa, a pharmaceutical heiress whose family owned half of Connecticut. They had the perfect house, the perfect life, the perfect everything. And then there was me, living in a one-bedroom apartment, driving a 10-year-old Honda, shopping at Target instead of Nordstrom. Every family gathering was an exercise in humiliation. "Sophie, did you see Derek's new Tesla?" my mother would ask at Thanksgiving. "The Model S. He paid cash." "Sophie, Melissa just got promoted to partner at her firm," my aunt would chime in at Christmas. "She's the youngest partner in the company's history." "Sophie, are you still single?" my cousin would add at Easter. "You know, if you'd stayed in medical school, you might have met someone suitable." Suitable. That was the word they used. I wasn't suitable. My job wasn't suitable. My life wasn't suitable. The only person who never made me feel that way was Grandma Rose. Gran was different from the rest of the family. While everyone else worshipped money and status, she valued kindness and courage. She'd built her fortune from nothing, a woman who started with a sewing machine in her garage and ended up owning a fashion empire. But she never forgot where she came from. "Your brother has ambition," she told me once, sitting in her garden, her hands still steady despite being 92. "But you, Sophie, you have heart, and heart is much rarer than ambition." "Tell that to Mom and Dad," I'd said, trying not to cry. Your parents see the world in dollars and degrees, Gran replied, taking my hand. But the best things in life can't be measured that way. Remember that, my dear. The truth has a way of revealing itself, especially to those who aren't afraid to look for it. I thought it was just one of her philosophical musings. Gran was always saying things like that. Mysterious statements that sounded profound, but didn't really mean anything concrete. Or so I thought. She died 2 months ago. Peacefully, in her sleep, in that beautiful mansion Derek now owned. The funeral was elaborate, hundreds of people, flowers from around the world, a eulogy delivered by the mayor himself. Derek gave a speech about carrying on her legacy. I sat in the back row and cried for the only person who ever really saw me. The will reading was scheduled for exactly 30 days after her death. Standard procedure, the lawyer said. We all knew what was coming. Derek would get the mansion. He'd been angling for it for years, bringing Melissa to visit Gran every weekend, talking about how they'd preserve the historical architecture, maintain the gardens. Victoria would get the investment portfolio. She had the financial knowledge to manage it properly. And me? Well, no one really expected me to get anything significant. She probably left Sophie some money for teaching supplies, Derek had joked at the funeral reception. Maybe enough for new crayons. But Gran did leave me something, those blueprints. When I got home from the lawyer's office, I sat on my couch and stared at the tube for an hour. Part of me didn't want to open it. Part of me wanted to just throw it away and pretend this final humiliation hadn't happened. But that rattling sound kept nagging at me. I opened the tube carefully. The blueprint slid out, along with a small brass key that clattered onto my coffee table. The key was old, ornate, with a number engraved on it. 1893. The year the mansion was built. The blueprints were the original architectural drawings for Gran's mansion. They were beautiful, hand-drawn with incredible detail, every line precise and purposeful. I spread them out on my living room floor, all 6 massive sheets. The first showed the exterior elevation, the second, the ground floor, the third, the second floor, the fourth, the third floor and attic. But there were 6 sheets, and the mansion only had 4 levels. My hands trembled as I looked at the 5th sheet. It showed a basement level that I'd never seen in all my years visiting Gran. The mansion had a cellar, sure. Derek had turned it into a wine storage area years ago. But this blueprint showed something different, a sub-basement below the cellar. And in the center of that sub-basement was a room marked with a strange symbol and the words, "The Heart of Truth." The 6th sheet was even stranger. It wasn't a blueprint at all. It was a letter, folded and pressed flat after decades of being rolled up. Gran's handwriting, but from years ago, the ink was brown with age. "My dearest Sophie," it began, "if you are reading this, then I am gone, and you have received my most important inheritance. Not the mansion, that hollow shell of wood and stone, not the money, that fleeting measure of success, but the truth about our family, about your brother, and about why I always knew you were the only one I could trust with this secret." My heart pounded as I continued reading. The mansion holds a room that no one knows exists. I discovered it 50 years ago, quite by accident, when I was renovating after your grandfather's death. What I found there changed everything I understood about wealth, about power, and about the choices we make. I sealed it back up, telling no one, waiting for the right person to share this burden with. That person is you, Sophie. Not because you're perfect, but because you're honest. Not because you're ambitious, but because you're kind. The key will open the door, but only if you know where to look. The blueprints will show you the way, but only if you're brave enough to follow them. Your brother thinks he's won by getting the mansion. Let him think that. The real treasure isn't in owning the house, it's in understanding its secrets. Go at night when Derek and Melissa are asleep. Go alone. And whatever you find, remember, the truth is only as powerful as the person wielding it. Use it wisely. All my love, Gran. I read the letter 3 times, my mind racing. A secret room? Hidden treasure? It sounded like something out of a movie, not real life. But the key was real, cold and solid in my hand. The blueprints were real, spread across my floor, and Gran's letter was real, her handwriting unmistakable. I spent the next 3 days studying those blueprints. The entrance to the sub-basement wasn't where you'd expect, not through the regular cellar. According to the drawings, there was a hidden door in the library behind the section where Gran kept her first edition books. A bookshelf that swung open if you knew which book to pull. The book was marked on the blueprint, Truth and Consequences by Marcus Aurelius. Of course, Gran would choose that. Derek and Melissa had already moved into the mansion. They threw a housewarming party that weekend. I wasn't invited, but I heard about it from Victoria. "You wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway," she said over the phone. "Very sophisticated, lots of important people, not really your scene." Not my scene, because kindergarten teachers didn't belong with sophisticated, important people. But I knew their schedule now. Derek had surgery every Tuesday and Thursday, staying at the hospital until late. Melissa had her book club on Tuesday nights. The house would be empty from 7 to at least 11. That Tuesday, I parked my Honda 3 blocks away and walked to the mansion. I still had my key, the regular key to the front door that all of Gran's grandchildren had been given years ago. Derek had probably meant to ask for it back, but forgot in his excitement over his inheritance. The house felt different without Gran in it. Colder somehow, despite Derek's attempts to modernize it with smart home technology and contemporary art. I made my way to the library, my footsteps echoing on the marble floors. The first edition section was exactly where it had always been, gathering dust. Derek had no interest in old books. Truth and Consequences sat on the third shelf, its leather binding cracked with age. I pulled it gently. Nothing happened. I pulled harder. Still, nothing. Then I noticed something. The book wouldn't come all the way out. It stopped halfway, like it was attached to something. I pushed it back in and heard a soft click, then pulled it halfway out again and turned it 90 degrees to the right. The entire bookshelf swung inward, revealing a narrow stone staircase descending into darkness. My phone's flashlight illuminated walls that were much older than the rest of the house. These were the original foundations, built in 1893. The stairs were worn smooth in the center from over a century of footsteps, but not many footsteps, just enough to leave their mark. The staircase spiraled down, deeper than I expected, past the cellar level, past what should have been solid earth. The air grew cooler, mustier, and then I reached a door. It was iron, massive, with a single keyhole that matched my brass key perfectly. The number 1893 was engraved above the lock. My hands shook as I inserted the key and turned it. The lock mechanism was well oiled. Someone had maintained it. Recently. The door swung open silently, and I stepped into a room that shouldn't exist. It was circular, maybe 20 feet across, with a domed ceiling. The walls were lined with filing cabinets, dozens of them, all labeled with dates going back to the 1920s. In the center of the room sat a desk with a single lamp, and on that desk was a leather journal with a note on top. The note was in Gran's handwriting, but recent. The ink was still dark blue. "Sophie, welcome to the heart of truth. Everything you need to know is in these files, but start with the journal. It will explain everything. And remember, with great knowledge comes great responsibility. Love, Gran." I sat down at the desk and opened the journal. The first entry was dated 1973, the year Gran's fashion empire really took off. Today, I discovered something that shattered my world. My husband, the man I loved, the father of my children, has been stealing from his own family for 20 years. I gasped. Grandpa James had died when I was 5, but everyone always talked about him like he was a saint. The perfect businessman, the perfect husband, the perfect father. The journal continued. James has been embezzling from every family business, every trust fund, every investment account. He's hidden it well, offshore accounts, shell companies, fake charities. But I found the paper trail. It's all here, in this room he built, to hide his secrets. He never knew I found it. I could expose him, destroy him. But what would that do to our children, to our grandchildren? So I've made a different choice. I've taken control of the hidden accounts. I've moved the money, and I've been using it to build my own empire. One that James can't touch, one that will outlast his lies. I kept reading, each entry revealing more of the truth. Grandpa James hadn't just stolen from the family businesses. He'd stolen from charities, from pension funds, from anyone who trusted him. And Gran had discovered it all, documented it all, and quietly fixed it all without anyone knowing. But that wasn't the biggest revelation. That came in an entry from 1995. Derek came to me today with a business proposal. He wanted to borrow money from the family trust to invest in a medical equipment company. I did my research. The company doesn't exist. It's a front. Derek is following in his grandfather's footsteps, and he doesn't even know that I know about James. The corruption is hereditary, it seems. My brother, my successful, perfect brother, was a fraud. The filing cabinets contained everything. Proof of Derek's embezzlement from the hospital where he worked. Records of the patients he'd overcharged, the insurance fraud, the kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. Melissa was involved too. Her family's company was part of the scheme, providing the drugs Derek prescribed unnecessarily, splitting the profits. But there was more, so much more. Victoria, my sister the lawyer, had been helping them cover it up. Legal documents with her signature, shell companies she'd created, tax havens she'd established. The three of them, Derek, Melissa, and Victoria, had built an empire of lies worth millions. And then I found the file with my name on it. Inside was every report card I'd ever gotten, every award I'd won as a teacher, every thank you note from a parent whose child I'd helped, and a letter from Gran, dated just a month before she died. My dearest Sophie, you must be wondering why I saved all of this. It's because these are the only honest achievements in our entire family. Every A Derek got in medical school was paid for. Every case Victoria won was rigged. But you, my dear, you earned every single thing you've accomplished. You are the only one who chose integrity over income, purpose over profit. I'm leaving you the blueprints because you're the only one I trust with the truth. The mansion is a poisoned chalice. Let Derek have it. He'll never find this room because he'll never think to look. He's too busy celebrating his victory to realize he's inherited a trap. You see, I've been documenting everything. Every crime, every lie, every dollar stolen. It's all here. And I've left instructions with my lawyer, a different lawyer, one Derek doesn't know about. If anything happens to you, if Derek or Victoria try to harm you in any way, everything gets released to the FBI, the IRS, and the media. But if you're reading this, you have a choice. You can expose them now, destroy them as they deserve. Or you can use this knowledge as power, as protection, as a way to finally get the respect you've always deserved. The choice is yours. Just remember, you are not the failure. You never were. You are the only success story in this entire corrupted family tree. I sat in that secret room for hours, reading file after file. The evidence was overwhelming, meticulous, damning. Gran had documented everything with the precision of a forensic accountant. She'd even recorded conversations, hidden camera footage of Derek and Victoria discussing their crimes. And then I found the most recent file, dated just a week before Gran died. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Security footage from the night I died. Watch it, Sophie. Watch it and understand why this inheritance had to go to you. I plugged the USB into my phone. The video was from Gran's bedroom security camera, a camera Derek didn't know existed. It showed Gran in her bed and Derek entering her room at 2 a.m. He was carrying a medical bag. I watched in horror as my brother injected something into Gran's IV line. She'd been using an IV for hydration in her final weeks. Gran's eyes opened. She looked at Derek and she smiled. "I know what you're doing," she said, her voice weak but clear. "I've known about everything you've done, but you're too late. The real inheritance is already gone. You can have the mansion, Derek, but you'll never have the truth." Derek's face contorted with rage. "You crazy old woman, what are you talking about?" "Sophie," Gran said simply. "I gave it all to Sophie." Those were her last words. The injection Derek had given her took effect minutes later. He'd murdered her. My brother had murdered our grandmother for an inheritance that was really a trap. I copied everything onto multiple drives, every document, every photo, every video. Then I sat back and thought about what to do. The next morning, I called Derek. "Sophie?" He sounded surprised. "What do you want?" "I want to see the mansion," I said. "For closure. I want to walk through it one more time. Remember Gran?" He laughed. "Seriously? You want to torture yourself looking at what you didn't inherit?" "Something like that." "Fine. Come by tomorrow afternoon. Melissa and I will be here. We're renovating the library, actually, turning it into a modern media room. Those dusty old books have got to go." The library. He was destroying the entrance to the secret room without even knowing it. I arrived at the mansion the next day with a small box in my hands. Derek and Melissa were in the library, directing workers who were pulling books off the shelves. "Sophie!" Melissa's voice was artificially sweet. "How nice of you to visit. Is that a housewarming gift?" "In a way," I said. "It's something I think you should see." Victoria was there too, supervising the legal documents for the renovation. Perfect, the whole criminal family in one room. "Before you tear down these shelves," I said, walking to the first edition section, "there's something Gran wanted me to show you." "Gran's dead," Derek said coldly. "Whatever she wanted doesn't matter anymore." "Oh, but it does." I pulled Truth and Consequences halfway out and turned it. The bookshelf swung open. Derek, Melissa, and Victoria stood frozen, their mouths open. "What the hell?" Derek finally managed. "Gran's final gift," I said. "She left you the mansion, Derek, but she left me its secrets. Would you like to see what's down there?" They followed me down the spiral staircase, their footsteps echoing in the darkness. When we reached the iron door, I used my key to open it. "Welcome," I said, gesturing to the filing cabinets, "to the heart of truth." Derek pushed past me, grabbing files at random. His face went white as he read. Victoria found her file, her hands shaking. Melissa discovered the records of her family's pharmaceutical fraud. "This is impossible," Derek said. "How did she know?" "Gran knew everything," I said, pulling out my phone, "including what you did to her." I played the video. Derek's murder of our grandmother, captured in high definition. Victoria gasped. Melissa stepped away from Derek like he was radioactive. "You killed her," Victoria whispered. "You actually killed her." "She was going to die anyway," Derek said desperately. I just sped it up. For all of us. For the inheritance." "The inheritance that's actually evidence of all your crimes?" I asked. "That inheritance?" Derek lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Copies," I said simply. "Multiple copies in multiple locations, with instructions to release everything if anything happens to me." "What do you want?" Victoria asked, her lawyer brain already calculating. "Money? The mansion? What?" "I want justice," I said, "but not the kind you're thinking of." I pulled out the box I'd brought. Inside were 3 USB drives. "These contain everything," I said. "Every crime, every lie, every dollar you stole. Derek, your medical license is gone the moment this comes out. Victoria, you'll be disbarred and probably imprisoned. Melissa, your family's company will be destroyed." "You're going to destroy your own family," Derek snarled. "No," I said. "You destroyed this family. You and Grandpa James and everyone who chose greed over goodness. I'm just the one holding the mirror up to show you what you really are." "Please," Melissa said, tears streaming down her face. "We have children." "So do the patients Derek defrauded," I replied. "So do the people whose pensions Victoria helped steal." "What do you want us to do?" Victoria asked quietly. I handed each of them a USB drive. "These are yours," I said. "Your copy of your crimes. You have 72 hours to turn yourselves in. Confess everything. Make restitution. Take the plea deals they'll offer. If you don't, I release everything to the media first, and then to the authorities. No deals, no mercy, just public humiliation followed by maximum sentences." "You can't be serious," Derek said. "I'm a kindergarten teacher," I said. "I teach 5-year-olds about consequences every day. Actions have consequences, Derek, even for successful surgeons, especially for murderers." "If I go down, you go down too," Derek threatened. "You're an accessory after the fact now. You knew and didn't immediately report it." "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone again, "I'm recording this entire conversation. It's being live-streamed to my lawyer, Gran's real lawyer, the one she trusted. So technically, I'm reporting it right now." Victoria laughed bitterly. "You played us. The family failure played us all." "I didn't play anyone," I said. "I just refused to play your game anymore." I walked toward the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Derek? The mansion is yours, just like Gran wanted. But you should know, the IRS will seize it as part of the asset. Forfeiture when you're convicted. It'll probably become a museum. Gran would have liked that. She always said this place should serve the public good." "Sophie, wait!" Derek called out. "We're family. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I thought about all the years of humiliation, the constant reminders that I wasn't good enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't suitable enough. "Family?" I said. "You never treated me like family. You treated me like a joke, the failure, the disappointment, the one who threw her life away to teach children." "Well, guess what? Those children I teach, they know the difference between right and wrong. They know that sharing is good and stealing is bad. They know that lying has consequences and that hurting people is never okay. 5-year-olds know this, Derek, but somehow you never learned it. So no, your version of family means nothing to me. But Gran's version, where she kept every single one of my teaching awards, every thank you note from a parent, every picture of me with my students, that means everything. I left them in that room, surrounded by evidence of their crimes. As I climbed the spiral staircase, I heard Victoria crying, Melissa screaming at Derek, and Derek shouting that it wasn't supposed to happen this way, but it was always supposed to happen this way. Gran had planned it all. 71 hours later, Derek turned himself in for murder, embezzlement, and insurance fraud. Victoria confessed to money laundering and conspiracy. Melissa's family's pharmaceutical company was raided by the FBI. The story made national news. Prominent surgeon murders grandmother for inheritance, gets caught by kindergarten teacher sister. The media loved it. The successful family brought down by the failure they'd dismissed. But I didn't give any interviews. I had a classroom to teach, children who needed me. The day after Derek's arrest, I was back at school, teaching my 5-year-olds about butterflies and metamorphosis. Sometimes, I told them, sitting in our reading circle, something that looks small and unimportant is actually just waiting to transform into something beautiful. "Like you, Miss Chen?" asked Lucy, one of my students. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "My mommy said you were like a butterfly. She said everyone thought you were just a caterpillar, but you were really a butterfly all along. They just couldn't see it." Out of the mouths of babes, the mansion was indeed seized by the government. But before it was, I went back one more time to the secret room. There was one file I hadn't opened during that first visit. It was labeled Sophie's Future. Inside was a bank account number and a letter from Gran. "My dear Sophie, if you're reading this, then you've done what I knew you would do. You've chosen justice over revenge, truth over wealth. The account number below contains the real inheritance, not Derek's stolen millions. Those were always going to be recovered. But my own money, earned honestly through my fashion empire, kept safe from James and Derek's grabbing hands. It's enough to buy a school, Sophie. Your own school, where you can teach children the way you've always dreamed of teaching them, where their worth isn't measured by their parents' bank accounts or their future earning potential, but by their kindness, their creativity, their character. This is my real legacy, not a mansion built on lies, but a school built on truth. Build it, Sophie. Build something beautiful where children can become their best selves, not their richest selves." And remember, you were never the failure. You were the only one who succeeded at what really matters, being a good person. The account contained $12 million. I did build that school. The Rose Chen Academy for Creative Learning opened 18 months after Derek went to prison. We accept students regardless of their ability to pay. We teach art and music alongside math and science. We measure success not by test scores, but by growth, not by grades, but by character. Derek is serving 25 to life for murder. The embezzlement charges added another 15 years. Victoria got 10 years, but might be out in 5 with good behavior. Melissa divorced Derek and testified against him in exchange for immunity. Her family's company was destroyed, but she avoided prison. My parents disowned me, said I destroyed the family name, but they're wrong. Derek destroyed it. I just revealed the destruction that was already there. The mansion is now a museum, just as I predicted. The secret room is part of the tour. They call it the Heart of Truth and use it to teach about white-collar crime and the importance of whistleblowers. There's a plaque by the entrance with Gran's picture and a quote from her letter to me. The truth is only as powerful as the person wielding it. I still teach, not in a traditional classroom anymore, but at my school, I work with the kindergartners every day. We're studying butterflies again this spring, talking about transformation and change. Miss Chen, one of my students asked yesterday, why do butterflies have to be caterpillars first? Why can't they just start as butterflies? Because, I said, thinking of Gran, of the blueprints, of that secret room, sometimes we need to be small and overlooked before we can become what we're meant to be. The caterpillar isn't failing to be a butterfly, it's preparing. And when the time is right, when it's ready, it transforms into something magnificent. Is that what happened to you? She asked. I smiled. Yes, sweetheart, that's exactly what happened to me. The truth is, I was never the family failure. I was the family's conscience, the one person who couldn't be corrupted, couldn't be bought, couldn't be turned into another Derek or Victoria. Gran saw that. She knew that the blueprints, the real blueprint for exposing the truth, could only go to someone who valued honesty over wealth. My brother got the mansion, but I got something far more valuable, the truth, and with it, the power to rebuild our family's legacy into something worthy of respect. The Chen name means something different now, not wealth or success in the traditional sense, but integrity. Children at my school learn about Chen values: honesty, kindness, courage, and justice. We have a butterfly garden where every spring we watch caterpillars transform into butterflies, and I tell them the story of how sometimes the smallest inheritance can contain the biggest truth. I think about Gran often, especially when I'm in the garden at my school, the garden I designed to look just like hers. I think about her patience, waiting decades to reveal the truth, her wisdom, knowing exactly who to trust with it, her love, seeing my worth when no one else did. You have heart, she'd told me, and heart is much rarer than ambition. She was right. Ambition built the mansion, but heart revealed its secrets. Ambition accumulated wealth, but heart distributed justice. Ambition created the Chen family empire of lies, but heart transformed it into something true. The last time I visited Derek in prison, he asked me if I was happy. You destroyed everything, he said through the glass partition. Our family, our reputation, our fortune. Was it worth it? Are you happy now? I didn't destroy anything, I told him. I revealed what was already broken. And yes, Derek, I'm happy. I'm happy that my students will grow up knowing the difference between success and worth. I'm happy that Gran's real legacy, her integrity, lives on. I'm happy that I finally know who I really am. And who's that? He asked bitterly. I'm Sophie Chen, I said. Kindergarten teacher, school founder, truth teller, and the only successful member of this family. He laughed, that same dismissive laugh from the lawyer's office. You think running a school for kids makes you successful? No, I said, standing to leave. I think choosing integrity over income makes me successful. I think valuing purpose over profit makes me successful. I think being the only person Gran could trust with the truth makes me successful. But mostly, I said, looking back at him one last time, I think not being you makes me successful. I never visited him again. There was nothing left to say. The blueprints are framed in my office now. Not the whole things, they're too big, but sections of them. Beautiful architectural drawings that once hid an ugly truth. Students sometimes ask about them, and I tell them they're family heirlooms, which is true. They're the most valuable heirloom anyone in my family ever received, because they weren't just blueprints for a house. They were blueprints for justice, for truth, for transformation. They were proof that sometimes the inheritance that looks worthless is actually priceless. That sometimes the family failure is actually the family's only success. That sometimes a rolled-up tube of old papers can be worth more than a 23-room mansion. My brother got the mansion, I got the blueprints. He thought he'd won, but Gran knew better. Gran always knew better. And now, finally, everyone else knows it too. The Chen family story isn't one of success anymore. It's a cautionary tale about greed, about choosing wealth over integrity, about the price of lies. But it's also a story of redemption, of truth prevailing, of the unexpected triumph of the underestimated. I was the quiet one at family dinners, the disappointment, the one who threw away her potential. But potential for what? To become another Derek, stealing and lying my way to success? To become another Victoria, using my intelligence to help criminals? No. I fulfilled my real potential, to be the one honest person in a family of liars. To be the one Gran could trust. To be the one who would choose justice over money, truth over comfort, right over easy. My students don't know the full story. They're too young. But they know Miss Chen believes in doing the right thing, even when it's hard. They know Miss Chen values kindness over grades, effort over perfection, character over achievement. They know Miss Chen sees their worth, even when others might not, just like Gran saw mine. The butterfly garden at my school has a bench with a plaque. It says, "For Rose Chen, who saw butterflies where others saw only caterpillars." I sit there sometimes, watching my students play, and I think about that day in the lawyer's office. How Derek laughed at my blueprints. How Melissa smirked. How Victoria rolled her eyes. How certain they were that they'd won and I'd lost. But Gran had the last laugh. She always did. Because she knew something they didn't. That the real inheritance isn't what you can hold in your hands or deposit in a bank. It's what you carry in your character. And by that measure, I was always the richest person in the family. I just needed those blueprints to prove it. End. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story moved you, and if you believe that everyone deserves to have their true worth seen, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Comment below. And tell me, what was the moment in the story that resonated with you the most? And if you want more powerful stories about finding your strength and overcoming the odds, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's next.